Hey, how's it going? I'm Spencer. I'm an addict. I just wanted to come out today and give a little testimonial on Asheville Recovery Center and how it's helped me get to where I am today in my recovery and my life in general. A little bit about me. I was born and raised in Manhattan in New York City. Um, come from a great family, very close knit, I guess you could say. Parents got divorced at an early age. I moved around a lot, lived in Pennsylvania, went to private school. I come from a religious background, which I was kind of torn when I went to a school of a different religion of mine that kind of tripped me up from an early age about a higher power type of deal. Um, was raised by two women growing up, my mother and my grandmother. Only saw my dad every couple of days. Played a lot of sports growing up, and was an athlete, great friend, had a lot of friends, was popular in school, and went to high school in New Jersey, and that's sort of when everything kind of started for me. I don't really have a background of feeling, less than or not fitting in or having any, very serious trauma growing up. The most traumatic thing that I would say happened to me growing up was September 11th, which plays a huge part in my life, but at the time was not a reason why I ever picked up in the first place. Um, so from there, got through high school somehow, went to college. I went to West Virginia University, and that was the real demise for me. West Virginia University was a huge party school. A lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol. I think when people go to college, they experiment a lot, and I experimented, you know, way one too many times, and so was at school. Somehow got through multiple years of college, and then dropped out from there. I moved back up north. I was living with a girlfriend at the time in the Bronx, and that was really when stuff started to go downhill for me. I got addicted to opiates very, very heavily, and got arrested, got into some very serious legal trouble, hit with a bunch of felonies, and that was when my first treatment stint started. I got sent out to the Midwest, someplace that I have never been, where it's very hot in the summer and very cold in the winter, and I was uncomfortable there. And regardless of the legal issues that I had looming over me, it didn't keep me from getting in trouble and still trying to run. I almost got kicked out, which would have sent me back up north and sent me right to prison because I was court ordered there. And So I did the deal there. I did 90 days in treatment. Went out to the West Coast to a halfway house. Spent 3 months there. Did some stuff in the wilderness. Really, I guess you could say I found myself there. It was one of the best experiences of my life. And then I moved back to the Midwest and did a lot of sober living there, and was in treatment slash sober living for just about a year. From there, I did what was suggested to me. I got a sponsor. I worked steps. Eventually, I had sponsees. I was working full time. I fast tracked through, worked for a very large company in a big passion of mine, and I was happy. Found a woman, fell in love, your typical love story, and I put together just under 7 years clean. But the one thing that I can say that for about 5 of those was working an active program, and for 2 of them was dry, and it was just a matter of time until I went back out again. I lost my grandmother through all of that, and that was very difficult for me, but I still didn't pick up over it. Um, my story progresses really quickly from there because it was almost 7 years from the last time that I had went out and I had any substance in my body to just picking up right where I left off. And somehow by the grace of God that I'm still here. That's how I've lost a lot of people in my life is they go back out after they have a certain amount of time, and they're not used to it. So I went back out for about a year and a half. and I was miserable. I had spent everything that I had. I had sold everything that I had. I had lost a woman in my life. I had almost lost my family. My health was declining, and I just didn't want to live that way anymore. So uh, I went into detox with cash in my pocket, and I was willing to do whatever it took. At least I thought so. But the difference was between that time and this time is that I wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it for my family and the woman that I had in my life before I lost her. And so I went to treatment up north. I did 28 days there. Couldn't wait till I got out. I stayed up there, and I moved to an area where, if you are a drug addict, would not be conducive to your recovery. I didn't look at it like that. I didn't. I put together some time, just about 10 months. It took me a while to get a sponsor. It took me a while to get a home group. I didn't work through any steps in any of those months, even though I've been through this. Even though some of my sponsees from the first time around are still clean. I know, if you follow the program, you're either going to work the program or the program is going to work you. And I wasn't doing either one of those. So, like I said, I was living up north, and my attitudes and behaviors came back out. And that was really what scared me and my family. They saw me going back out even before I ever picked up again. And my parents, I put my parents and my family and my friends through so much in the last decade that they were just done, to the point where I have to figure this out for myself. And they wanted me to come down to Asheville Recovery Center, and I was not about it. I was not coming down here. I had never been to North Carolina except for one time for 2 days in my life prior to that. I couldn't point out Asheville on a map to you. I couldn't tell you anything about it. I wanted nothing to do with it. I didn't want to leave the Northeast, let alone go back to treatment again when I wasn't even using. It was a matter of time before I picked up again, and I was out for a couple weeks, just over 2 weeks, and which is just over 2 weeks too long. Again, by the grace of God, I made it back. If you're familiar with the epidemic that's going on right now, surviving 2.5 weeks using what is out there is a miracle, let alone surviving one day. And finally, after 2.5 weeks were up, I felt like I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I was disgusted with myself again. I was sick of the cycle. I knew what was to come. I knew I was going to go back into detox. I knew I was going to go back to treatment. And I didn't know what was to lie ahead after that. And that was all fear-based. So I'll never forget, I called a person here at Asheville Recovery Center that my parents had been talking to for quite some time. I called my mother and said that I'm going into detox in the morning, and then I will go to Asheville Recovery Center once I complete detox. And so I went to detox up north, and 7 days later I fly down to North Carolina, and I'm looking out the window in the plane and I see these beautiful mountains, and then I land, and there's one baggage claim, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, I feel like, and I lose cell phone service 10 minutes outside the airport, which is just nothing that I'm used to. And I show up here and it's beautiful, but I'm still miserable. I'm still dealing with stuff back home. I'm still worried about stuff back home rather than focusing on the program here. And to fast forward a little bit, I would not be where I am today if I didn't come here. I could have gone to one of thousands of treatment centers across the country or world, and who knows, maybe I'd still be clean, but that's not my story. My story is that I came here. And between the techs, the counselors, the owners, it's all a family. We all stay in touch with one another. Everybody is concerned in a good way what we all are doing with ourselves. The alumni are a very tight-knit community. Even if you didn't go through here with somebody who's an alumni, you still become very close with them. I've made I have friends that I've been friends with my entire life, or almost the majority of my life. But since I've been down here for almost 4 months now, I feel like I've made friends that I will have for the rest of my life. Hopefully, if we all keep doing the deal. And you know, I don't. I'm not one. I'm very honest. I'm very blunt. I'm never one to promote one place over another. But this is just my story, and I don't regret coming here. I would never look back on it and want it to be a different way. I completed 30 days, I believe, or just under 30 days of treatment here, and I was going home. I went into my counselor's office, and we were going to book my flight on a Saturday for that Monday before July 4th. And I had said, "What happens if I stay?" Or actually, I said, "What happens if I go home and want to come back?" And he said, "You just call me." And I said, "All right, well, what happens if I say I want to just stay here?" And he didn't believe me. None of the staff here believed me. And I wasn't going to a halfway house. I was going back up north, like I said, and doing IOP and living at home. And what I ended up doing was staying in Asheville, staying connected with Asheville Recovery Center, doing IOP at Asheville Recovery Center, moving into a halfway house with guys from Asheville Recovery Center, getting a sponsor, working steps, getting a full-time job, staying tied into the community and doing service work. And in turn, because of that and having the family that I have through Asheville Recovery Center, I have the best sober network that I've had. Even when I had just under 7 years in the program and clean, I feel like my network now is better than it's ever been in my life. I have people that hold me accountable. I have people that check in on me. And there's not one day that goes by that I regret that I'm here, regret that I went through Asheville Recovery Center. And I just wish that anybody who is going through this and suffering from the disease of addiction and alcoholism has the opportunity, or had the opportunity that I had, to come through this center and get the experience that I had, because without it, I don't know if I would be here today.